This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers Podcast and True Crime Today. This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi and continuing coverage of the case against Rex Heuermann.
Otherwise affectionately known as the Gilgo Beach Killer or the Long Island serial killer, allegedly. Lots of new information coming out. More so, I think, to scratch our itch of what the hell was going on in that house, because that's what we've been speculating on since he was arrested. Of course, his house, Massapequa Park in New York, looked kind of like a hoarder's house, to put it lightly. Kind of surprising for a guy that's somewhat a skilled and respected architect in New York City to be living in such a situation. It was kind of a little bit incongruent. But we also wondered, okay, if he's doing all these things and he has this weird basement that has all sorts of weaponry in it and allegedly child porn and all sorts of horrible things, a manifesto on how to kill people, what's going on there? What's going on with the wife, Asa? They've been married for decades. What about the kids? Did they know what was going on? And the new Peacock documentary that came out that was produced by G-Unit Productions, yes, G-Unit, 50 Cent, it dives into this, and it goes into great detail. We hear Asa in her own words. We hear the daughter, we hear the son, we hear a lot of people come out and discuss what life was like with Rex. Joining me to discuss, Robin Dreek, retired FBI special agent, chief of the counterintelligence behavioral analysis program. There's a lot to unpack here with Rex and what was known and what was not known. I'm going to start with Asa, because Asa is one that she filed for divorce early on. They did get the divorce. But what we learn in this documentary is that it was more so to protect assets than it was to get away from the man that most of us believe is a horrific serial killer. What's your thoughts on how that all worked out and where she's sitting today, still believing that this man is innocent and he was her hero earlier in life?
Yeah, we do not want to face anything that is incongruent with our self-image, do we? Mm-hmm. She is a great example that she's been groomed in this lifestyle with him. And it's been part of her life for so long, and he's been part of it. It's part of who she is. It's part of her validation of self. And to deny any of that would be obviously bone crushing to her brain. It would break her brain, I think, to admit that he is actually potentially the killer, because she idolizes him. And what's interesting about this entire thing is that look who she's placing more important than anything else. Him, above children, above everything. So it's he did a good job brainwashing her. There's no doubt.
And they had met when she was young. I believe 17, 18, somewhere around there. She had a very traumatic upbringing. She is a rape survivor. There was abuse. There was all sorts of things that she had gone through where she needed help. Either she was going to pull herself up by the bootstraps and get a life going for herself, or someone was going to come in and save her. In this case, Rex was the savior, and I say that in air quotes. Yeah. Brought her in.
He came in. I don't know if he saved her, but
yeah, he came in. I mean, to her reality, the world, the trauma that she had been living in, he took her out of that. And allegedly, he didn't cause her more trauma. And maybe he did not. Maybe, it was a fairly plain Jane relationship, and there really wasn't a whole lot going on involving her and this other life that he's allegedly led. And then all these years later, it seems that when she's on vacation is when he's out doing these things. There's a lot of weirdness here. One of the things that I found odd is the normalizing of rather bizarre behavior. One of them being, when we're on family vacations, he's out doing this. Well, why isn't he on the family vacation? That's not a family vacation. It's kind of bizarre when just mom is taking the kids on all the family vacations and dad is always back home and we don't know what the hell's going on. Now, certainly the dynamics of work and all that do play a factor into this. But that seemed to be what happened all of the time. There was this separation. There was places in the house that no one was allowed to go into. And that was just completely normal. It wasn't just this is off limits, it's dad's space, he doesn't like you in there. It was like, you don't go in there. There was a lot of normalizing weird behavior in this house. Yeah. Do you believe that?
100%. So he rescued her from an unhealthy life of trauma and then renormalized her into his life of secrecy and lack of transparency. And so that became her new normal, which was better than her old normal. So in her mind, it's a step up. He saved her. That's why he's a hero to her. But he normalized all these unhealthy behaviors of lack of transparency. Remember, I keep saying it repeatedly. Open, honest communication, transparency, and vulnerability are the three pillars of trust that I believe we all need if we're going to have healthy relationships. And that lack of transparency, secret places, times with unknown things going on, he normalized that at a very, very young age in their relationship. So it became part of the norm. And so when they have kids, that's also then part of the norm. It's just the way mom and dad do things. It's the way our family does things. It becomes part of the little insulated family normal. So doesn't surprise me at all.
Do people like this, probably depends on the human, but someone like Rex Heuermann, who essentially groomed Asa and the family to believe one thing one way. This is how it works, and this is how we're going to do things. Are they doing that on a conscious level? Is it, I better make them think this so I can get away with that? Or is it just who they are? They have to present things this way because this is just how they operate. It's not necessarily nefarious how a healthy individual would have to sit down and go, how am I going to convince someone of this? An unhealthy individual would just naturally be able to do that because it's just, well, this is how life has always worked out for me. It's just, it's how my motor runs, if you will.
So I'm going to liken this to alcoholism, believe it or not.
Okay.
In the sense that what happens is with someone that's a deep-rooted severe alcoholic, their entire existence revolves around thinking about alcohol and how to hide that amount of drinking they're doing from everyone in their lives. And so it's not necessarily a conscious thought. It just becomes who they are of how to duck out of here, how to have a private stash here, how to have a behavior here that's hidden from over here. And so it becomes part of their entire existence about how to live a secret life within a life that's exposed to everyone. And so it's not necessarily a conscious thought. It's a habit of secrecy. It's a habit of betrayal, of hiding themselves even from themselves, but definitely from the world around them, so they can put up a false front, so they can look normal to the world around them and healthy to the world around them, as they have a subculture in their own mind that it's thoughtful, but at the same time it's habit.
And that's I think a big differential between a healthy person and a very broken person.
Yes.
It's just, the prism, the operational, it's a different operating system. If we're all operating on Windows 95, which I feel like most of us still are.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
Still get the blue screen of death every now and then.
Yes,
and it's
blue
like
screen of death. Just Control Alt to Delete. Just unplug the thing.
Like, let's reset.
And think about it, everything I just said too is a total lack of transparency and openness. And so I always, with all the behavioral skills, tools, and techniques we talk about, and I train people all the time on, they always say, well, isn't that just manipulation? I said, the greatest counter to any sort of manipulation or even influence or persuasion where there's covertness involved is just be transparent. Transparency is the greatest mitigator for unhealthy behaviors. Because if you're unwilling to be transparent with your behavior, maybe you really should second guess the behavior you're having, because that will keep it from being unhealthy. Because once you start going down the unhealthy path and becomes part of your normal, it becomes easier the next time, and then easier the next time. And then you get into a pattern of unhealthy behavior. And what you're now doing is you're normalizing that behavior to that environment. You're grooming your environment to your unhealthy behavior. If you just started with transparency at the beginning, you avoid it at all. You avoid it entirely. I know. I'm pie in the sky, Robin, very optimistic, rose-colored glasses. But hey, I got reps doing this shit. Yeah. It's the way it works.
No, it very much is. And Rex operated a certain way. I think one of the most shocking parts about the Rex Heuermann case, the Gilgo Beach killer list, whatever you want to call it, is when we're talking about baseline of a human being, a lot of it just go to ourselves. So how would I think about this? It's just kind of our natural reaction. And you got to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. We're talking about Rex Heuermann and his baseline. What kind of a baseline is it for somebody who completes the documents the way that he did, the documentation in his basement, his kind of manifesto or to-do list, if you will. It went into such great detail about what he needed to do, and just weird, like little reminders for himself. And the fact that someone is capable of writing this stuff down and then going back to life and going to work as the architect and going out to Applebee's with the family or whatever the hell he was doing. These are some of the things that were on his planning list. Get sleep before hunt. Have story set. Check issues to avoid detection. His inventory, cutting tools, acid, hairnets, tarps, heavy rope. Things to remember. Hit harder. Consider a hit to the face or a neck for takedown. Post-murder body preparation, remove head and hands, remove trace DNA, and remove ID marks like tattoos. It goes on, and he's just like, typing this down in Word, and he had this list for like 20 years. What is going on with this human being that they can do this and go, yep, this is my to-do list, and then, like I said, go back and live normal life? That's a weird baseline of life right there.
It's actually not surprising to me because this is what stalkers will do as well. They actually keep detailed notes on what they're doing because this is part of his, to me, this is part of his fantasy. It's not just how he positioned bodies. What serial killers do is they live out these fantasies. They position bodies, they keep trophies, they do certain things to live out the fantasy in their mind again. And so part of his fantasization is actually his note-taking. So he can think about this. So a lot of these bodies, if he's actually the murderer, whoever did it, were positioned and put in places that he can think about them and maybe even drive by or see them, but not frequently. And so if you're trying to relive those moments and try to get that same rush that you had in those moments and thinking about those bodies and what he did to them, one way he's going to do that is be able to look at his notes and remember it and reminisce about it and think about it. And also, he's a detail-oriented guy. He's got life reps of doing this, and so he's probably perfected his craft. He wants to get better each time. You know, he's an architect, which is an engineering type of thing, and so they're detail and process-oriented people. So he's very likely a very process, detailed-oriented individual. So he actually took a lot of notes on it. I know it still hasn't gone to trial yet, but it just reminds me of the Koberger case as well. Here's a detailed school guy just taking a lot of notes, doing a lot of research, and doing all these things to execute a plan. And so Heuermann doing something similar like this too. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all, especially since we see he's got a household of trophies. He's a hoarder. He collects shit so he can look at it. Yeah. The same thing. Why do you write things down? So you can reminisce and look at it again, improve upon it. And just, can you imagine? So again, we put our reverse context on. So here I am, I'm a psychopath and I want to kill people for a living because it makes me feel good and I get the adrenaline rush I want from it. One way I can sit around in my I love me room of guns and body parts is to look at my notes I took to do it every time. Oh, what a great time that was. See what I mean? It kind of fits that whole behavior pattern of his life of just nutso. It's my scientific term of the day, nutso.
The very scientific word of nutso.
Yeah, Robin the behaviorist. Yes, he's nuts.
It's what the hell is going through his mind when he's doing that, though? When he's sitting down in his little den and lair.
Oh, he's having a good time. Think about it. He's having a great time planning this out. He's like, oh man, think about it. So again, I don't think these are like spur of the moment vacations. His wife also says, hey, we haven't had a vacation in a while. You mind if I take the kids? He's probably saying, hey, I saved us some money. You guys really deserve a vacation. So I'm planning this whole thing out for you, a great thing. And so in his mind, he's got part of his excitement is planning a vacation for his family, because part of that planning process is this planning process. He's a planner. And so he's just sitting around slowly, methodically, taking his notes. I planned them to get out on here. On this date, I'm going to do this. He's probably going slow and reveling in every moment of this entire planning process. And then afterwards, what is he doing afterwards? Like some people take photos on vacations. He's going back and looking at his notes. Again, a lot of conjecture, a lot of, me, Robin, leaping way out there on this. But if we're trying to understand what could possibly be the reason why someone has behavior, makes sense, doesn't it?
That's a great question that would have been really lovely to have asked in that documentary. Who planned the vacations?
Yeah.
How did that go down? Was there a lot of planning involved? Who did it? Who paid for it? Who was going, hey, just like you said, because then his family is looking at him like, oh, he's the martyr. He's sacrificing his time. He wants us to go have fun, even though he can't because his work is so taxing. And they come back going, thank you for that vacation, Dad. I wish you could have come. My God, it would have been great if you were here. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. It's work. Gotta.
My guess is the hero planned the vacation.
Yep.
That's why, and people use words with a lot of meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Her using the word hero says it all. He's a hero to her because in her mind, what do heroes do? Heroes sacrifice themselves for us, for others. And so in her mind, what behavior fits that? All these things that I just described is the behaviors of a hero.
He convinced her that he was the hero all those years over and over and over. It is a weird way to describe your significant other, especially 20-some years after he rescued her or whatever. Being a hero is a weird one. I mean, it's like, I admire them. I love them. I trust them. They are a great human being. Just
what you need for someone to cover your tracks, though. Too,
yes, but if you are the hero, that's a new level. That's like, you don't question the hero. And that seems to be kind of the home that they lived in. They didn't question what he was doing down there. They just, he's this good of a guy.
That's the hero's lair. That's where the hero goes to his secret bat cave.
Yeah. Except he's
no
looking
kidding.
at...
I mean, just think about it. I mean, it's anytime people try to make these things overcomplicated, you're really working too hard at it. This guy's a simple animal. This simple animal had his den, as a predator wolf. He had his sheep around him protecting him. To them, he's the hero.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers Podcast. This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi and continuing coverage of the case against Rex Heuermann.
Welcome back to what might be the most chilling segment yet of our analysis with psychotherapist Siobhan Scott. What you're about to witness includes actual audio of Rex Heuermann calling from jail. I need to warn you, hearing the voice of an alleged serial killer speaking to his devoted wife, it's a little unsettling. It's not that he's saying anything crazy or horrible, it's the normalcy of it that makes it unsettling. It's what Asa Elrup says about their relationship that will disturb you. Before we play that footage and go into some analyzing with psychotherapist Siobhan Scott, let me provide some context that makes these phone calls even more significant. The conversations are taking place from the Suffolk County Jail in Riverhead, where Rex Heuermann has been held since July of 23. Every call from that facility is recorded. Every call is monitored. Rex knows this. Asa knows this. Yet they continue these conversations as if they're discussing what to have for dinner or any normal evening. Here's what wasn't happening in these calls. Any proclamation of innocence, any outrage at false accusations, any discussion of fighting the charges. Instead, we get mundane pleasantries in Asa's continued devotion. It's what defense attorneys call consciousness of guilt, when the absence of denial becomes more damning than any confession. Now, let me tell you something crucial about the timeline here. By the time these calls were being recorded, Asa had already visited Rex multiple times in jail. She's seen him behind glass in shackles wearing a prison jumpsuit. She's walked past protesters outside the jail, calling him a monster. She's heard the charges read in court, 7 women murdered over 3 decades. Yet she continues these calls with the same tone you'd use to check in with a traveling spouse. What's particularly revealing, and Siobhan Scott picks up on this immediately, is Asa's physical appearance by this point. The documentary shows a woman who appears to have deteriorated significantly since Rex's arrest. Her dental health, her grooming, her overall presentation, all showing signs of severe psychological distress. Yet she lights up when talking to Rex, transforms when hearing his voice. Here's something that didn't make it into our discussion but provides crucial context. Phone calls from Suffolk County Jail cost money. Lots of money. Talking about dollars per minute. With companies profiting from prisoners' contact with the outside world. Asa, who has no job, no access to bank accounts, and is battling cancer without health insurance, allegedly, is somehow finding money for the calls. She's prioritizing hearing Rex's voice over what? Her own medical care? It's hard to know. We don't know her finances. We do know what she's told us. And then there's the divorce that wasn't really a divorce. Asa filed papers 6 days after Rex's arrest, leading many to believe she was cutting ties. But as you'll hear in this segment, that was purely strategic, a financial move to protect assets from civil lawsuits by families' victims. In her mind, in her heart, she's still Miss Rex Heuermann. Still devoted, still in love. She's waiting for her hero to come home. What Siobhan and I explore in this segment goes beyond the phone calls themselves to examining what psychologists call trauma bonding at its endpoint. This is what happens when the psychological chains become so strong that even prison bars can't break them. When the need for the abuser's approval transcends reality itself. When love becomes so distorted that it survives even the most horrific revelations. And then we hear from Victoria, Rex's daughter, whose journey from admiration to horror provides a stark contrast to her mother's continued devotion. The phrase that she uses, past tense, I looked up to him, a linguistic shift that Siobhan identifies as crucial. It's a crack in the facade, the beginning of acceptance, the start of healing. Perhaps the most disturbing is Asa's revelation about what would hurt Rex. In a moment that defies all logic, she suggests that telling him that she loved him would cause him pain. Think about that. After everything he's accused of, after all the evidence against him, she believes her love would hurt him. It's a statement so psychologically complex that even Siobhan struggles to fully unpack it. We're going to witness a family in various stages of psychological destruction, a wife who can't see the monster she married, a daughter beginning to accept the unthinkable, and at the center of it all, a man accused of unimaginable crimes who still receives devoted phone calls from the woman who shared his bed for 27 years. It's trauma, it's denial, and delusion crystallized into a few minutes of footage that will haunt you long after you've watched it. Here's a interaction where we actually hear from Rex. This is them on a phone call in the documentary.
To accept this free call, press 1. To refuse this free call, press 2.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right, how are you today?
The suspected serial killer Rex Heuermann remains in jail on murder charges.
He's been held at the Suffolk County Jail in Riverhead since he was arrested.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Now that I've got you on the phone.
I figured I'd give you a call and make sure you were okay today.
All right. What'd you have for dinner?
Oh, just a burger and some mashed potatoes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll eat after the rain tomorrow. I'll try to get out and take a walk.
Uh-huh.
Because I couldn't today because, just uncoordinated. Am I still seeing you on Friday?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I will talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
And I will see you on Friday.
Yes.
Bye.
That was creepy. Just
really creepy.
even her, and I don't want to insult aesthetics or anything, but she even looked really creepy there with the teeth
Well,
and all that. Oh my
yeah,
God.
when you're evaluating a person for psychological health, their physical appearance is something that you make note of.
Mm-hmm.
It's considered, revealing. Are they well kept, well groomed? Do they take care? It doesn't have to mean they're beautiful, but
Yeah.
do they take care of themselves? If they don't, there's meaning in that.
Yeah.
This woman her appearance, her current appearance, it raises some red flags again about things not being quite right with her.
What does it say? I mean, what does it say? Obviously, if you know, she's going through hell, without a doubt. The whole family is. But I mean, what does that say? I mean, just, you know, I can relate, like when I've been in depressive states after horrible shit happens, you know, and you can too after reading your book, where it's like you just kind of go down to the whatever, here's clothes, I'll put them on today.
Yeah.
Is it a sign of a depressive state? I mean, what are we seeing in that?
It sure can be depression. It can be disorganized thinking. So somebody could be a little bit delusional or having psychotic problems. And we're a long way now from his arrest.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember the date, but you know, it's been a while. And so I would think her appearance at this point is, so what's the right word? She's just kind of deteriorated. It's a flag that this lady is not doing well.
And still, you sure are. You're going to see me this. Do you think even Rex is surprised at this point that Asa's still hanging out? I mean, I think once you get busted for this and there's hairs on the victims and all that, and you got the manifesto in the basement and everything else, wouldn't be hard sell to believe that your wife might leave you. But she's still sticking around. I mean, I wonder if Rex himself is taken aback a little bit by this.
It very well could be. And, you know, when he was first arrested, and it was just, a month after that she filed for divorce. And I kind of applauded that at the time. I thought, well, what a healthy response. And then it turns out in the documentary, well, that was just to protect her assets.
Yeah.
That in no way does she consider him not the love of her life anymore.
Yeah. This is another interesting clip we're going to take a look at. She talks about not wanting to upset Rex. And I want you to pay attention to what she says would upset Rex Heuermann. Let's take a look at this.
Bye. I'm talking to him all the time, but he only has a certain amount of time to be able to make calls. So I can't get too comfortable talking to him about things that are going to hurt him.
What would hurt him? What are the things that hurt him?
Telling him that I love him, that will hurt him. The two of us were married for 27 years. We were 100% part of each other's lives. Does everybody really believe everything they hear?
Rex Heuermann is a demon.
Charged as a serial killer.
Do you really believe everything that's being said?
This man is a sexual sadist.
He enjoyed torturing his victims.
Well, we didn't buy it.
Telling him that she loves him would hurt him. What do you get there?
That's an interesting one, because clearly the way she's communicating to him shows her complete, utter dedication. And so is she thinking, speculating, is she thinking that this is going to just stir his longing for her or highlight the loss? I'm not quite sure. She had her eyes closed for a long moment during that. So what is the story that she's trying to generate?
Telling him that she loves him would hurt him.
It's an unusual response.
Extremely. And yeah, like that. Why? Because you're divorced, but you're still standing by him. Would that hurt him because it brings shame to Rex? Does Rex feel shame if someone tells them that they love him because of, and even though he's done what he's done? I don't know. It's a weird complex right there.
It's very weird. And I think whenever you get those eyes closed from her, There's something unusual going on in her thinking process, that she's trying to pull something up.
Yeah.
And is it genuine? Because certainly the way she speaks to him is utter dedication.
Let me ask you this before we listen to some of the daughter stuff. What's your take on Mom? Do you think she knew anything that was going on here, and this is all some sort of cognitive dissonance, or is it just literally cognitive dissonance because she really didn't know what was going on, but by choice of not questioning Rex on so many things?
I think that this lady, you could say she's not. I won't say she meets criteria for any specific mental illness because I don't know enough about her.
Sure.
But she's not well, and she's probably never been well. There are things wrong with her. And I think when she says, I had no idea, I think she didn't. I mean, that would be my guess. She didn't have any idea. But she's so submissive and so dependent on him, and in myriad ways, including he's my friend, he's my best friend, everyone needs a friend. He was probably her only friend. And so she just is very good at not seeing what's right in front of her. That's what I call the negative hallucination. Regular hallucination, you're seeing something that's not there. Well, she's not seeing things that are there. And I don't know that she has any volitional control over it. She just doesn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been life for so long. Rex Heuermann, I mean, you could say, really conditioned her, but I mean, I would almost go brainwashed her to think that some of these things are just normal. Because I mean, it would take, it's more than just, we don't question this. Like, it was really solidly normal, and it's still working. Whatever he conditioned her to or brainwashed her to believe, she's still under that control. She's still under the guise of Rex.
Very, very much. I agree completely.
Let's take a look at what was going on with the children. These are adults now, adult children of Rex Heuermann. They're talking about the relationship, what they thought of their dad. This is the daughter talking initially about her father in the documentary.
Starting when I was in college, he got some really big jobs, and he was very busy for a couple of years. And actually, I was honestly really inspired by my dad. I looked up to him.
1, 2, 3. Can you smile? That is.
I felt like, damn, I have some really big shoes to fill. Yeah.
When you think that he committed these acts while he was still seeing clients at his architecture firm, it made it even more chilling because he compartmentalized things to such a degree that he was able to outwardly conduct his life as normal in an otherwise routine way.
But his job was very demanding. And it started to be visible that the stress was weighing on his mental health. Sometimes he would come home frustrated. He needed to wind down. But he never hit any of us.
There were injuries to her face, torso, breasts.
The worst he would do,
The women were bound at the head or at the chest and later at the legs.
was he would throw a plate into the sink.
The remains of 3 sex workers were discovered bound and concealed in burlap sacks.
That's the worst. Listen, my dad was an open book, and a lot of people who knew my dad, long-term clients, people he worked with for years, it was no secret he hunted. It was no secret he had guns. He was an open book.
Is it surprising? Is it weird that the kids are describing him as an open book and the worst he did was throw a plate into the sink? Or is this common with people who are living this double life that they're able to really present completely different to those around them?
It is, yes. That compartmentalization, I think, is kind of classic serial killer stuff. You look at Ted Bundy, what was he volunteering on a helpline or something? I mean, people had no idea. And this ability to keep up this facade and to compartmentalize so incredibly, that is normal for a person like this. But the healthy thing I heard from her there when she was initially speaking was, I looked up to him, not I look up to him. And so that shows that there's a little crack in her defense mechanism that, implying that she no longer looks up to him in the same way.
Siobhan Scott, psychotherapist and author, as always, thank you for your insight. I need to sit with what we just witnessed here. I know you might too. That phone call, the normalcy of it. The normalcy Asa tries to inject into a conversation with a man accused of serial murder. Had potatoes today. It's almost more disturbing than if we heard someone screaming in accusations. But there's so much to unpack here that we didn't even touch on in this segment. Let's share something about those jail calls that makes them even more significant. In New York, recorded jail calls are admissible as evidence. Prosecutors listen to every word, analyzing not just what's said, but what isn't said. The fact that Rex never once proclaims his innocence in these calls, never exposes outrage at being falsely accused, never confronts Asa by insisting it's all a mistake. That silence speaks volumes, but keep in mind, they know the calls are being recorded. Defense attorneys often advise clients to avoid phone calls for their very reason, yet Rex continues to call and Asa continues to answer. The physical deterioration, Siobhan noted, in Asa is particularly telling. This isn't just someone going through a rough time. This is someone whose entire psychological framework may be crumbling while she desperately tries to hold it together. Denial issues, the unkept appearance, these are signs of severe depression and disorganization. Yet she musters the energy to visit Rex every Friday, to wait by the phone for his calls, to maintain this connection to the man accused of being one of New York's most prolific serial killers. Let's talk about what Victoria revealed about her father's compartmentalization. She describes a man who could plan murders while maintaining an architecture practice, who could bind and torture women, then come home, help with homework. The plate throwing incident she minimizes, that's what psychologists call minimalization of abuse. Family has normalized explosive behavior to the point where violence against objects doesn't even register as concerning. And here's something chilling to consider. Victoria mentions that everyone knew Rex hunted and had guns. But hunting what? The timeline shows gaps between his alleged murders that coincide with hunting seasons. Was his passion for hunting actually in practice? Was every trip to hunt deer actually reconnaissance for hunting women? The fact that he was so open about some activities while keeping others completely secret shows a level of psychological sophistication that is terrifying. The statement that telling Rex she loves him would hurt him from Asa. It opens a psychological can of worms. Is Asa suggesting Rex feels guilt? That he knows he doesn't deserve love? Or is this about control, that expressing love when he can't physically respond maintains his psychological frustration? Whatever the answer, it reveals a relationship dynamic so twisted that normal emotional expression has become weaponized. What Siobhan identified as a negative hallucination, not seeing what's right in front of you, extends beyond Asa to the entire family system. They lived in a house with locked rooms, with a father who disappeared during family vacations, whose financial secrets and controlling behavior wreaked havoc, yet they described him as an open book. This is generational trauma in action, when dysfunction becomes so normalized that you can't even recognize it as abnormal. There's also a question of Rex's childhood bedroom being in the basement, the room where he allegedly committed some murders. Was his space from boyhood. The psychological implications are staggering there. Did something happen in that room when he was young that started this trajectory? Was returning there to kill a way of reclaiming power over some childhood trauma, allegedly? We may never know, but the symbolism is hard to ignore. For you guys watching and listening, particularly those who might recognize these patterns of devotion despite evidence of terrible behavior, please understand, love shouldn't require you to deny reality. Dedication doesn't mean blindness. And if you find yourself making excuses for behavior that horrifies others, if you're minimizing violence, if you're accepting locked rooms and secret lives, these aren't signs of a strong relationship. They are warning signs. The contrast between Asa and Victoria shows two possible paths when faced with unthinkable truth. Victoria is beginning the painful journey of acceptance using past tense, acknowledging the possibility of her father's guilt. It's agonizing, but it's healthy. Asa remains frozen in denial, deteriorating physically and mentally, while clinging to a love that may have enabled decades of murder. As this case moves forward to trial, these phone calls will likely be played in court. Jurors will hear Rex's voice, Asa's devotion, and the hollow normalcy that they try to maintain. They'll wonder, as we do, how love can survive such horror. The answer, as Siobhan Scott helps us understand, is that sometimes what we call love is actually something entirely different. Dependency, trauma bonding, a psychological prison or more confining than any jail. If this analysis has been valuable, please hit subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology of true crime on this and many cases. We got it for you right here. Press subscribe on the podcast, wherever you are listening, or on YouTube. If you're watching us there, hit subscribe there and let us know in the comments what you think about this case. And check us out on YouTube. If you're not there already, just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. I'm Tony Bruschi. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again real soon.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.